Let's talk Chelsea. Look, after that fantastic win against United, me and you laughed about this, didn't we? You said you're going to go to Sheffield United and they'll lose. Didn't lose, but in the end, Oli McBurney scores a 93rd minute goal, and you can't even beat the bottom side, the basement side, Sheffield United. It's awful.
Yeah.
The club is so hit and miss. It's incredible.
Well, what I thought was a bit weird just then, if I've detected this correctly, is it sounded to me like you may have had an element of surprise in your tone.
I did.
There's no surprise.
I did. Come on, no, you must be surprised.
But 2 weeks ago at Stamford Bridge, we saw Chelsea draw 2-2 with Burnley. Like, at what point does it not become a shock? Like, the only team in the bottom three that Chelsea have done the double over are Luton, and we made hard work of that away from home. Like, the only team that Chelsea can manage to take 6 points against in the bottom three, one of the three. Like, that's outrageously poor, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
so there's no surprise. Chelsea go away to Bramall Lane. We don't put in a performance. We don't put the game to bed. We switch off and we allow a last-minute equaliser to be scored by Oli McBurney.
Yeah, and he's got time as well. Like, it's not like the ball comes in and ricochets and he's got time.
It was the most inevitable. It was the most inevitable equaliser that I think you will ever see in a game of football. I guarantee you that in the away end, behind that goal at Sheffield United, which you know was really weird. I've never been to Sheffield United.
No,
I've literally never been there. It's one of the very few grounds in the country that I just, for one reason or another, we haven't played there very much. I think we played there. Well, we had a terrible day there under Lampard. Rudiger had a terrible game, but it was under restrictions.
COVID restrictions.
So no, I've never been to Bramall Lane. But in that away end, I imagine there would have been an air of expectancy, not that Chelsea win the game.
It's coming.
That the equaliser is coming.
Yeah.
And it came. It was as reliable as you would expect, because Chelsea, firstly, we are a collection of such average footballers. Like, genuinely. There are so many players in our squad that are just distinctly average. Like Benoit Badiashile, he's not a good player. Axel Disasi, he's not a good player. Enzo Fernandez, he's not a good player. Like, the list goes on here. And then crucially, and most importantly, we've got a manager who is so out of his depth, so average. And the reason that Sheffield United were able to get into the game, get back into the game and snatch a point out of the game was because of ludicrous substitutions that were made by Pochettino. He's affected the game from the touchline, which is a manager's responsibility. But he hasn't done an intuitive, clever tweak like Jose Mourinho used to do, send Damien Duff over to the other wing and overload them and somehow score, bring Joe Cole on and catch them by surprise and make sure that you win the game. He's made some terrible substitutions. He's taken our best player, Cole Palmer, off. He's tried to shore it up, try to make sure that we don't concede by bringing on some defensive changes, bringing on Badiashile and that, and ultimately we've conceded. It is exactly what it is. That is who we are. Like, how Pochettino can think, bringing on a kid, that Cassidy, how can bringing him on in a robust game away from home in the Premier League, how is that a good substitution at the time? When
is Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo as a midfield partnership ever going to come good? When's that expected to happen? Like, again, you want to give players time sometimes. It's not their fault, the price that's put on their head. But as you said earlier in the show, it's $250 million. Those two cost. $250 million is frightening, isn't it?
$250 million.
$250 million for those two.
And a pair of them can't play together. Do you want to know? Listen to this. If we take them individually,
what is Enzo supposed to be? Like, help me out.
I don't know.
It's like Moises is a 6, right? Moises is supposed to be a 6.
Mate, I don't know. Okay. I don't know what he's good at.
It's supposed to be a 10. Is he supposed to be an 8? An 8, right?
I think what he's supposed to do is sort of play that quarterback role, forward, adventurous passes, dictate the tempo.
Supposed to do.
Yeah, he can't do it. Like, he's not that. I mean, that's what he did for Argentina, isn't it? He sat at the back and dictated clever passes, started the attacks. But no, I haven't seen anything like that kind of player. But listen to how ridiculous this is. In terms of playing away from home, and it is important, I think, to acknowledge quite how poor Sheffield United are. We've gone away to... Sheffield United aren't really comparable to other Premier League teams at the moment. If you're comparing Sheffield United to anyone, you compare them to that Swindon Town team that conceded 100 goals, or that Derby County team that went down with the lowest ever points tally.
They've conceded 82 goals, Sheffield United.
Yeah, this is how poor they are. This is how bad Sheffield United are. And you've got Enzo Fernandez, a player worth well over 100 million quid, who against such average opposition has given the ball away 23 times himself. Like, as a team, you give the ball away 23 times. That'd be quite a lot against Sheffield United. Enzo Fernandez himself gave the ball away on 23 occasions. He completed just 80% of his own passing accuracy. On some level, I don't want Pochettino at the club. I vehemently dislike him. But when you hear stats like that, what on earth is Pochettino supposed to do, aside from not playing him? But when you're worth £250 million and that's your midfielder, you kind of got to play him, haven't you?
Is there any argument, and I guess Cole Palmer shut this argument down, that Chelsea at the moment is just a poisonous club, that even if a genius went there in terms of a player, you're not going to do anything?
I think there is... We have to give... There is
truth
truth in that. Yeah, at Chelsea, I think you could argue that at Chelsea, regardless of what's going on, you are set up to fail.
Yes.
And Mauricio Pochettino, whatever you think of him as a manager, I think he's behaving terribly. I think he's really, really not doing himself any favours. But equally, it's a poison chalice of a job. You earn a lot of money, it's a prestigious job, you live a great life. But working under Todd Bowley and Ed Barley, who no longer speak to one another, can you imagine? It was bad enough when they were singing off the same hymn sheet. You've now got the two owners, the public face of the two owners. They don't talk anymore. So imagine trying to...
Club, isn't it?
It's crazy. It's ludicrous.
Because when you think of the reason I say that is because of someone like Raheem Sterling, who, look at his record of goal scoring at City before he came. It's not like he fell off a cliff, by the way. I think he still scored 17, 18 goals in his last season at City. 25, 20, 30, and then he comes to Chelsea and it's just...
No, I think you're right. At some point, when you look at... I think Sterling is a great case study for this. When a player has scored 20 goals, 7 consecutive seasons... and then he turns up and he can't hit a barn door. At some point, you've got to have a look in the mirror yourself, haven't you?
100%.
At some point, he isn't the problem.
Yeah.
Because whatever you think of Raheem Sterling, some people rate him higher than I do, some people don't rate him at all. He's a really good Premier League player. That's non-negotiable.
Even Caicedo, and look, I know he looks rubbish, right? He looks rubbish. Liverpool were going to get him. We had him. And in my head, I'm thinking, surely he wouldn't have been this bad at Liverpool under Klopp.
But then there are lots of examples of this. Do you know the one that I always think of? When I saw Leandro Trossard blitz through at the Amex, and not only did he dink the keeper, but it was a lovely dummy shot, dinks the keeper, sends the away and into Raptors, gives it to big and to the home fans, right? Dream signing, dream player. We got the player they wanted. Mykhailo Mudryk, the reason they got lumbered with Trossard was because we gazumped them for Mykhailo Mudryk. Chelsea's delegation flew out to Poland to make sure that we got Mudryk.
This is my point. And so, when you look at that Brighton team and the players that have left, the ones that have flopped have been your team.
Yeah.
Cucurella.
Yeah, you are correct.
And Cucurella and Enzo.
I do agree.
Look at McAllister and you look at Trossard.
I do agree. But then for every example that you're using here, you then go, well, Cole Palmer is flourishing. And he's either the exception to the rule or he's the player that proves that everybody else is just underperforming or not playing well enough or not caring enough. But I do think you're onto something with regard to who Chelsea are. I think a lot of clubs would say this. A lot of clubs fans would honestly think this. So, say you're a Queen's Park Rangers fan, I think you'd think it. You would say, legitimately, potentially, my club is the most mental club in the world. I think lots of fans would say it. I actually think Chelsea are the most ridiculous club in the world. I think Chelsea are the most mental club in the world. They're the most unstable, volatile club in the world. There is nothing comparable to Chelsea.
You can't go from winning a European Cup 3 seasons ago.
Two and a half seasons ago, right? 2.5 years ago, Chelsea aren't only European champions, but we won the Super Cup in Belfast, and we were officially the best team in the world.
Yeah, I know
the best. We won the competition.
You get the badge.
Yeah, we went over to Dubai. We won the competition. Yeah. We were the best team in the world 2.5 years ago. We are now I'm not saying we're the worst team because the Premier League table tells you who the worst team is, but what we are is one of the most beatable. We are one of the most beatable teams in the Premier League. There isn't... when Chelsea play...
Sorry to cut across you, but I just can't think of a juggernaut, and you are that. You're a behemoth, Chelsea. In any other league, apart from maybe Ajax, but they don't have the spending power that you have, that have fallen off like this. It's incredible. Chelsea are a massive, massive club. This Real Madrid are not finishing 9th.
No.
You finished 10th last season.
Also, it's consecutive.
This is it.
It's consecutive.
This is now a normal thing.
At what point do you have to redefine who you are? 3 years ago, which is what it will be, that Chelsea were the best team in Europe and the world. A long time ago, they say a week's a long time in football, don't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, at some point, Chelsea will have to redefine who we are. And I think that time is probably now. Like, when people do their predictions for next season, who's going to win the league, who's going to finish in the top four? Yeah. Nobody anymore. I think this season, a lot of people would have still said Chelsea will bounce back. They've had that 1 year off. Some people may have even thought Chelsea win the league this year. Off the back of having a bad season, let's see how they regroup. I think now that there is a redefinition. If you look up Chelsea in the dictionary, it's different now.
Yeah, don't think anyone now would have Chelsea in their predictions to make top 6. If you do, you're only just going on.
The other thing is, what on earth are we going to be like? Because we won't be able to spend the money. Presumably, we're going to have to sell players. And my worry is,
I think you're going to get hit with
we will.
But
the way that they'll try and alleviate that, the way that they'll try and make the books balance, is to allow the likes of Conor Gallagher to leave, which will cause unrest in the support.
Cole, all the players
and then it will get to the stage where, if you're Cole Palmer, who is this good, I believe that Gareth Southgate should probably be looking to work a system out that changes everything to accommodate Cole Palmer. I think he's been that good. Look, that's how good I think he's been. Yeah. But if you're Cole Palmer, you're not looking at it going, I can't play for a team in 10th. And
yeah, that's a very good point.
And imagine if a club were to put in a bid for him, like a proper bid. If somebody were to just think, this is our guy, let's double what Chelsea paid. I don't see how Chelsea don't take that bid.
What'd you get? How much you paid?
40 we paid.
You're right.
Someone goes 80, and he's kind of worth 80. He might win the Golden Boot, Ade. He genuinely might win the Golden Boot. He's in touching distance of finishing above Salah and Haaland. He's he's 3 goals behind. So another hat-trick and he's suddenly level. If he wins the Golden Boot, gets into the England team and carry Chelsea on his back, he's definitely going to be Young Player of the Year. Yeah. That's in the bag no matter what.
That's a banker.
Say Amorim goes into Liverpool and goes, do you know what? We need somebody a little bit more. Actually, be a very good tonic for Liverpool, because Liverpool's front line, it's effervescent and slightly wild, isn't it? Nunez and Diaz, it's all someone just a little bit more composed. If Amorim went, Cole Palmer's our bloke, can you bid for him? And FSG went, do you know what? We got 90.
Liverpool would love that, to go the other way.
Do the Torres.
To go the other way, yeah.
But it actually worked.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Obviously, I'm making this up, but I just don't see how Cole Palmer isn't open to the idea of leaving Chelsea.
Of course not. If Cole Palmer goes into the dressing room and looks around, it's like, he ain't good.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.